Hello everyone and welcome back to Sam's on Wrestling. I'm joined by my elder resident who doesn't have much time left, so I will be inheriting the channel very soon. It's gosh. Elder Sam. What do you want to say to everyone?
I'm leaving the channel to Ellie Mae in the will.
Are you actually? It's probably in safer hands with her, despite the fact she knows nothing of wrestling. But then, neither do I in the grand scheme of things. Exactly. I knew you were going to say that. But anyway, welcome back. This is our Power Rankings. Now, if you're wondering what Power Rankings are, that's a very valid question, and let me explain. So we take wrestlers, female wrestlers or tag teams, and we rank them in 10 different categories. You give them a score out of 10 in each of the 10 different categories.
All right, Tyler.
So each of us... You mean Ty Dillinger?
I do, yeah.
You do. He's forgetful in his old age. I'm sorry about him.
I know him as Sean Spears.
Samuel, please. I'm trying to do the intro now. This is where we have 10 categories. We rank them each out of 10, each giving us each a score of 100.
Go baby, Sam. Go baby,
Thanks,
Sam.
I appreciate the support.
Sam.
I love a bit of moral support. And that gives us overall a score out of 200, and then we rank them on our leaderboard. We have different categories. We have a mid-card, a main event, a women's, and a tag team category. You see what I have to deal with here.
Who are we doing today, Sam?
We are... Oh, this is why you're doing it. I just thought you were being annoying. Yes. By the title of the video, you'll understand.
They get it, you don't.
No, I can't think of two things at once. I was focusing on the intro. We're doing the Spirit Squad.
The Spirit Squad.
Jazz hands.
I love the Spirit Squad.
I'm surprised at that because I'd have thought that you'd have thought this was nonsense and you didn't like it.
But it was nonsense in the fun way.
Well, you do like some fun nonsense. That's why you tolerate me.
Wrestling bollocks, this was.
Yes.
I thought this was great. In an era where in America we'd be male cheerleader, Vince, well, they can't be a male cheerleader. That makes them heels. Everyone will hate the male cheerleader.
Yes.
And he was just like, and he used it, and he got all these young people, and they were there a while. People think once the DX thing is over, that's it. I was like, no. They then had the tag titles for about 9 months or something ridiculous. Yeah. They were there a while before DX again got rid of them.
Did they put them in a box?
They did put them in a box, shipped to OVW, which is one of the most...
Oh, it's rough that.
It's a bit...
Imagine being told that in the creative meeting before.
I'm trying not to swear.
lads, we're going to... what we're doing tonight is we're actually going to put you in a box. We're just going to say shit back to OVW.
Kenny's like, no box for me. He was hiding behind a wall going, aha, you're going to become Dolph. I'm going to be the next big star. Released. But we're going to do the Spirit Squad. So before we get into our scores for the Spirit Squad, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And let's find out where male cheerleaders will go on our board.
So our first category is the wrestling ability category. Now this is about their tag team wrestling ability, not necessarily as a single star. And this is unique because we usually have tag teams that are 2 people.
Yes,
whereas we have
the Freebird style rule. Yeah,
exactly, 5.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting one. What have you gone with?
I think the fact that there's 5 is actually why I'm having to knock it down. Because Kenny was really good in the ring. He was probably the best in the ring at this point. Because the guy who then became Dolph Ziggler wasn't as good as he becomes. He's probably second best. And then you got one guy who kind of can do a few flips. I think that's Mickey, who can do a few. And then the other 2 are useless. Like Johnny is like... So I went with a 5 because they was up, they're down, they're up, down. None of them were bad in the ring necessarily, but you wouldn't exactly... But they needed to be in developmental longer, bar probably Kenny.
I went 6.
Which I also could understand. They had some good tag team moves.
Yeah, and their finishing we will get to.
Oh,
yeah.
We'll get to their finishing.
But in general, their work, I felt like... From what I've seen of them, I've mainly seen the DX stuff where they just are having to sell to DX.
Well, when they become tag team, there's no tag team vision. You know, there's no one there. It's Cade and Murdoch and people like that. So, yeah.
And now we move on to their storytelling. Now, this can be storyline-wise, but we're really more focusing on their in-ring storytelling. Sam, what have you gone with?
I've gone for 6. I think that's better than their wrestling because they were able to tell the story of being cheerleaders and going away and doing team preppy things in the corner, which is really good fun. I thought they got over the characters doing it. I thought they got over individual characterizations of each one via in-ring work rather than promos or anything like that. So well done that we actually knew that Johnny was the karate one and that Kenny was the leader and this guy does the little flips and Mitch is kind of the cheerleader one who cheers. I actually thought that was really good and that was all through their in-ring work.
And it would be very easy to just kind of see them all as the same kind of wrestler.
And they weren't.
So
they weren't. Ironically, the one who had the least personality, the one who wasn't given anything, was the one who became the most successful in Dolph. Like, Nicky, literally, he did nothing. I forgot he was there. If you asked me to name them in order, I named the other one and Nicky was the one I would have forgotten the most. That's the fascinating thing.
Him and Kenny are the only two that I could name, to be honest. But this is a bit before my time.
Well, I knew them because I put the theme tune.
No, of course. So yeah, I went 6 as well.
I think it's correct, yeah.
Now we move on to their promo skills. Sam, what have you given the Spirit Squad for promo skills?
We've run into the same problem as their wrestling ability. Kenny could talk. And Mitch was okay at talking. The other 3 could not talk. Nicky, as Dolph, did not know how to talk. And he didn't know how to talk for the first year of his career as Dolph either. He hadn't worked out a character or how to talk. And the other 2 just couldn't talk. They were really bad promos. And they weren't given enough time to do promos. Most of the time it was Kenny.
Yeah.
So I've actually gone with a 3 because I as much because Vince and Shane did all their talking, and then when the tag team champions and they were up against like people like Ric Flair, they were getting schooled on the mic. It was embarrassing, and again, the only person they let talk was Kenny.
Yeah.
So I had to go 3. I nearly went 4, but in reality, 3 of them can't talk. One of them was the cheerleader talker, and then 1 did all the talking. So I've gone 2, 1, 0, 0, 0, 3.
I've suffered from the fact that I haven't really watched them enough. So I went 6 thinking, well, they're kind of annoying heels. I thought that's kind of more their thing than...
But they didn't talk.
I'll put it down to a 4.
Yeah.
I don't know these guys that well.
They got over their character being annoying by the fact that they kept interrupting matches. Or at the beginning, the Royal Rumble 2006, they did a cheer before the Royal Rumble 2006. So the match is about to start, out come the Spirit Squad. Genius.
Yeah, great.
Genius idea to get heat on them. But they weren't cutting promos outside of Kenny. Kenny, they literally went, Kenny's the one.
Yeah.
Kenny's the guy. He gets to talk. So, yeah. Do you know what? I'll give him a 4. Because Kenny was such a good mic work that you could work around it. And Mitch was pretty decent as well. I'll give him a 4. I'll up it to 4.
Now we move on to their look. Now we talk about, especially with singles people, it's not necessarily their level of attractiveness, so that can come into it. Not necessarily their figure or their build. A lot of it's to do with their attire. Sometimes their entrance attire as well.
What their gimmick associates with their look, does that work? Does that, and all that stuff?
Yes.
And also general opinion on their look as well.
Yes. What have you gone with here, Sam?
7.
I've also gone 7.
Well, I'm really surprised because, but quite frankly, it works.
Yeah. Not everyone has to look like Kane, or someone who's really menacing. No. Their characters were cheerleaders. The green's really unique.
It stands out so much
massively
on camera.
And I think this is a big part of the reason they're memorable because of unique things like this, their entrance and their overall gimmick.
Well, they came through paper as well.
Yeah, and it was so like high school jock kind of thing, but it worked because that's what you're going for. It's like John Cena says, just lean into whatever. If you're going to do a gimmick...
They committed to that gimmick.
If you're going to have a gimmick, you either have to be the complete opposite of what you're saying that you are, or you have to go full in and be exactly that. And they completely committed to it, and the attire is very much included.
There was a few people who I think they had in consideration. Punk, I think, was one.
Oh my God, what a horrible timeline that is.
I think Elijah Burke as well was in, and they were like, no, I don't want to be... I know I get to go on the main roster now, work with Vince, work with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Did it work out for 3 of them? No. But that's probably down to their own personal work. The character, when they got rid of the characters, as much as they got rid of it in a horrible way, was the right time to get rid of the gimmick. But quite frankly, they looked like cheerleaders. It wasn't second rate. They looked, but they didn't look, like they were cheap or poor or, it's just thrown together. It looked really, really good. And Americans know how to do cheerleading anyway, so someone's designed it well, and it works. The green for me, the green and the white for me, stands out. It's such a unique colour palette to them.
And next we move on to ranking their entrance, Sam. I think you're going to give this an unreasonably high score.
I've gone 7.
Have you? Okay, I thought you were going to go like 8 or something. Cause you
It's the reason I can't go any higher. If you'd have said after the first month, what's their entrance score, I'd probably given it a 10. But then you've seen it, and then you've seen it, and then you've seen it, and it gets really annoying. So their entrance is they come through the paper, and they used to do individual flips into the ring from a trampoline.
That's cool.
It was the Sin Cara gimmick, and they all did it. There was a trampoline there. They all used to do jumps in. It's actually no. Do you know what? Bugger it. 8.
Okay.
Actually, bugger it. I forgot how. I was like, oh yeah, they did all those flip things. I actually really like it. I actually really like it. It's fun. It works. It shows how athletic they were, which is actually what really helped them. They're going, oh, they're just cheerleaders, but they were really athletic. All of them, pretty much. And this is how memorable they were. They brought them back for the Dolph Ziggler storyline in 2016. That's how memorable they were.
I forgot about that.
If you're a tag team that lasts a year and gets brought back, do people remember who you are? No, but they knew who they were. Yeah. And Dolph never even mentioned it. That's how good it was. I think their entrance is a lot of fun. I actually really enjoy it. I like the going through the paper. I like when sometimes they would actually do a cheer as well. Was a part of their entrance. So I'm going to give it an 8.
I've given it a 6. It's fun. Maybe I'm being harsh.
I think a little bit, but I also can understand it.
It's still not going to be a main event thing, but it doesn't have to be.
Tag teams aren't main events.
No, I know, but it's not. But you're not like
you had this problem when we talked about, and you were like, well, but they're not the level of Stone Cold, and I went, but they're in a different section. This is the tag team section.
That's my level for a 10. You know what I mean?
That's not my level for 10 in tag team, and the same for the women.
No, tag team is a different conversation, but
so is the women.
I think it's one of those. It as you said, it gets repetitive, and it's the same thing.
That's the main issue.
And it's. Once you've seen it. If you're watching it after a year, is it going to be as good?
And that was the problem.
Yeah,
hence why I can't. That's what I said. First time is a 10. I'm going to drop it down to an 8.
And now we are looking at their work as heels, and let's face it, they were heels for
the whole
entire run. So what have you gone with, Sam?
I've gone 6 because you can't go upper echelon heel with that gimmick. It's there to be annoying, and it succeeded. The fact that then they became tag team champions and were put to the side kind of didn't make sense because it was like, oh, we need to do something with you. We don't want to finish with you, but there isn't a tag division, so they kind of were just around. They
had
were
no one to feud with.
They were not being lackeys anymore, which is why they worked because they were hitmen, even though they just got jobbed every single time. And that is the definition of jobbed. They lost every match, looked really weak to Triple H and Shawn Michaels pretty much every single week. But yeah, I've gone for 6. They got heel heat. People hated them. I think if they'd stuck around any longer, particularly if they'd feuded with bigger names, I think they would have been got go away. So for me, I've gone for a nice strong 6 for heel.
I went 7.
Which also I agree.
Again, it can't put an 8 or higher.
No.
But I think they did their job very well. And I think because I haven't seen much stuff post-DX of them, I probably wouldn't bring it down because of the longevity. I thought, okay, they had that little nice storyline with DX and went in my version of history. And now we move to their work as a babyface, and they never did.
So we have a rule, Sam. What is the rule?
That if they have never actually been a babyface or a heel, you cannot rate that section more than a 5.
Yeah.
So what have you gone with, Sam?
So if someone hasn't done it, we have to go on what we believe is maybe the potential of it, and I just look at that gimmick, and it cannot be a babyface.
No.
Not in America.
No.
I don't see how they make it outside of really going into the athleticism, but that's not how Vince would have booked it, and I don't think it would ever work. So I've sadly had to give them a 1.
I've given them a 2 just because I think that at least sometimes they're kind of funny and enthusiastic, and people like Dolph Ziggler, they can, obviously he's not Dolph Ziggler yet in terms of ability, but they can work that wrestling style.
The only way they could have burned babyface is if they kicked out 3 members and 2 of them become the Spirit Squad but you can't be called Spirit Squad. You'd have to change the whole gimmick, so it wouldn't count. So...
And again, a faction of 5 is never going to be a babyface thing anyway.
No, you can't do it. It's not possible. I don't think factions can be babyface full stop, to be honest.
I'd like to see someone try.
Yeah, it can only work for about 6 months, I think. But yeah, I've gone 1 because I just can't see it working.
Now we move on to the gimmick / personality. What have you gone with for their gimmick, Sam?
I've gone 7.
Okay.
For 2 reasons. 1, I've got a little bit of personality, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. They were able to show their personality without actually talking and going, I am Johnny, I am the martial artist, and I am Kenny, I'm the lead. They showed that in their work. The gimmick is a really good gimmick. It has a shelf life, which means immediately can't be 8, 9, or 10. Straight away, cannot be 8, 9, or 10 because it has a shelf life. But I think for a gimmick with a shelf life, it got main event. It main evented a pay-per-view. Yeah, that is how over this worked and how important Triple H and Shawn were at the time and how big the DX thing was. And if people go, oh, DX, it was rubbish, go watch the crowd. Crowd are hot for it.
I think some of their stuff in 2006 was hilarious.
I loved it. And because they go, oh, it's 2 old men acting like, and they was like, that was the joke! They knew that, you cretins. Anyway, I actually really liked it. I love the gimmick. I think the gimmick's fun. I loved it. I hated it as a child.
Yeah.
Because it got the desired effect. I like their personalities, particularly 3 of them. So I've gone for a 7. I'm giving it positivity.
I went 5 because...
You
I know, because I just feel it was a bit of a waste because I feel like...
a waste is exactly what it is.
Because you're just wasting about, 4 months of DX's time when they could be feuding with maybe Rated RKO.
To be fair, no, it wasn't 4 months. They...
I don't know how long it was.
So DX turn up, let's say it's June, okay, maybe May. They have their first pay-per-view in July against them at Vengeance, and then it's against Shane and Vince, and they are lackeys for them. They're not feuding against them, they're feuding against Shane and Vince, and they are always using the Spirit Squad.
Yeah, I just feel like it doesn't really help Triple H or Shawn because they're not coming against decent opponents for them to overcome.
It was a problem, but it was to get them over the new crowd and let them to enjoy them.
I know, but these are my reasons.
But they did squash them. But that's not reason for gimmick and personality, that's their booking.
Because I was getting that. I just feel like the Spirit Squad as a whole, I thought it was a fun gimmick, but it's clearly a lower card gimmick. Yes. And you've thrust it into the main story that's going on other than what Cena's doing.
That was a problem.
It's out of place.
But I still don't think that means it's the gimmick or personality, Sam. I feel like you're talking more about something over and a draw.
I'll get to that as well.
But that's one thing I feel like you've confused.
I feel like no, because the gimmick is that they are in the main event.
That wasn't the gimmick.
The
gimmick is their cheerleaders.
You let me say 3 words and then you come up right. So what I mean is, because it's a comedy gimmick, it's like thrusting Santino immediately into the world title feud. It doesn't work. And because it was out of place, I feel like, yes, it wasn't used properly, but that is part of also the scoring for me.
Can I just say they weren't put straight into the DX thing? They debuted in January and the DX thing didn't start till May.
What were they doing till then?
Nothing.
So
actually, Sam, what you've just said is all wrong because you weren't watching.
Well, I wasn't watching, but I still don't think it's a great gimmick because it's got a massive shelf life, as you said, and it's just cheerleaders, isn't it? It's just nah.
Yeah, but it's everything. You could say about everything. It's just a zombie. Yeah.
Who are you talking about there?
That's the Undertaker.
Yeah. No, not the Undertaker. I just don't. I'm not enthralled by it. Sometimes it's just the way you feel about a certain gimmick and person. I look
you're
at
not
it.
You're not feeling the spirit.
I'm never going to go back and watch something from the Spirit Squad. I'm just not.
I am.
Yeah, I know.
I watch the DX stuff.
That's why you can give it your rank and I give it mine. I just think it's a bit, to be honest.
Funny enough, I reckon you might give them higher score. I think you might
probably, overall, probably. And now we move on to how over / how much of a draw they were. Sam, what have you scored them for this one?
4.
I've given 5.
They weren't over. After the DX thing. DX got them over and then they went quiet for about 8 months and then they feuded with Ric Flair and the Legends, but that's because you're feuding with Ric Flair and Legends.
But then even, you say they were over during the DX thing, were they over or was it more because they were associated with DX? DX were over.
No, it's association over.
Yeah.
But you are still over by association. You can still be over by association. No, you can. We know this.
No, I know you can be, but then does that rub off on them? You know what I mean?
No. Then they proved that's why I've got 4. Because if you went literally, if they stayed with the noise they were getting from the DX thing, you would go, well, they're 7 and 8. They kept that overness, and then they finished the DX thing, and you went, oh, I don't care about them. They beat Kane and Big Show for the tag titles. The night
Who did they pin?
I believe Big Show, but
good. I don't want Kane to be pinned.
The night after WrestleMania, after they beat Carlito and Chris Masters. Why bother?
Why bother indeed?
Just have them win the tag titles at WrestleMania then.
Yeah.
You might as well have done that. Anyway, have you gone, what did you go, 5?
5.
Yeah, 4 and 5 I think is about right for the gimmick.
Now we move on to their finisher.
Should always end on a finish.
We should always end on a finish. And Sam, what have you gone with now? Can we agree what we're talking about here?
So, all 5.
I love
it's
this.
a 5-person finisher, so technically doesn't count as a finisher.
But we're going to go
But we'll go with it. And everyone gets a limb, and they throw them about 107 feet into the air. And
ridiculous.
They come crashing down. It is visually one they did to Shawn Michaels.
Oh, that's the one I think
He went miles.
No, he went into orbit.
I had to balance where I scored this, because initially...
I haven't.
Go on, what have you gone for?
10.
I initially went 10, but I've gone 9.
Oh.
Because, and I have dropped them 1 mark down, you physically couldn't do it in a match without doing a cheat. And if you have to cheat to do your finish every single time, that's a booking problem. And it became a booking problem because they couldn't do the finish.
No, I know, but
so it was a more an attacking move that they did when they attacked people.
You know what it is though, Sam?
What?
I don't care.
I know you
I don't care. Because I love watching people defy the laws of physics and just go, oh, Shawn Michaels, he's going to the moon. Look at him go.
They did it to the Big Show.
I know, that's how they won the titles, isn't it?
Yeah. Quite frankly, this tag team finishing move is one of the simplest moves in the history of wrestling, and yet it's genius.
And it also links to the cheerleading gimmick, Sam.
Hard to sell doing it, though, because you've got no protection because you've lost your arms and your legs, so you have to do the protection the minute you get in the air. Very difficult. But you're absolutely right. The connection to the cheerleading makes sense. It was actually a very good gimmick, and it was very well thought out. I've gone with a 9 because you can't do it in a match.
I've gone with a 10 because I like it.
I want to give it 10. I really
You can,
do.
Sam. No one's stopping you.
Me.
All right, now let's go to our overall score. So, Sam, out of 100, what have you ranked them overall based on each ranking in your category?
I've gone 57.
I've gone 58.
So if I'd have given him a 10 for the finisher,
we'd have tied.
There's
still time, Sam. There's still time.
No.
115's
already on the screen, Sam.
Yes.
It can't be removed. Look, it can't be removed.
It cannot be undone.
Nails, hammers. Checking my editing skills.
Good look, Edison.
Volcano. Hey, future Sam, did you get that right, or have you just put question marks? Let's find out. Let's see where they fall onto our tag team leaderboard. Sadly, they have slipped into last place, mainly because we've actually had quite a lot of amazing tag teams. Behind the primetime players, I think based on the tag teams we've got there, probably about right. I don't think they'll stay there. I don't think they'll be rock bottom for a long time. I think 115 just shows you if that's bottom at the moment, that's an average of just short of 6.
And we've still got the Ascension to do, Sam.
Oh, God. Retribution.
Oh, my God.
Deuce and Domino.
Oh, no, stop it, Sam. We're having a good time.
Having a good time. Did you feel the cheer? Did you feel the spunk? Thank you for joining us on the Power. That's an American word for pep.
Just doing a face. I said nothing.
Thank you for joining us. What would you rank the Spirit Squad? Please join us for go and watch all our other Power Rankings to see why and some people have landed on the leaderboard. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Follow us on all of the things, Twitter, X, Blue Sky, whatever they are. And we shall see you next time.